I have a big theory about the possible existence of God. I might be able to convince you that God does exist beyond a reasonable doubt. I would call this the every 80 years phenomenon. So starting from the 1770s and 1780s, um, there has been a major cataclysmic war every 80 years that involves that number one involves the US, and number two that features a large array of interesting heroes. Try and think of other similar comparable wars. They don't compare. Let's think about the French Revolution, not as big and impactful as the American Revolution. World War One was big, but not as big as World War Two. The Cold War likewise was big, but not as big as World War Two. Vietnam War, same thing. The War of 1812, the Mexican American War, the Spanish American War, these wars were not nearly as impactful as the previous four wars I mentioned: the American Revolution, the American Civil War, World War II, and the current war we're in today. These are the biggest wars of each of their centuries. And so you have to think about this every 80-year gap in between each of these wars. It's remarkable how and eerie how it just happens every 80 years basically, not like clockwork, but more or less every 80 years. How else can you explain this? And this has been happening. If we're talking about the 1770s, this goes back 250 years. How else can you explain this? Time travelers? I do believe in time travel, and I'll talk about that in another video. But I do believe time travelers exist, but I don't think time travelers were causing these cataclysmic wars every 80 years. No, this is God orchestrating events to make it so that it happens every 80 years. And he was depending on someone, like a bright person, like honestly me, to discover this pattern and to explain it to everyone to help them believe in God in heaven.